Yo, 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 yo. Welcome back to another episode of the 8 Morning 92 podcast where we always keep it 100. You heard none of them sound effects, did you?
Nah.
Hey, hey,
Told y'all niggas I was gonna keep it street.
oh, then how you coming, Glock?
Pause.
Okay.
It's the 8 Morning 92 podcast. You know how we do. We always keep it 100. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 8 Morning 92 podcast. We always keep it 100. We are your hosts, Harrison and Banks, back with another episode. And man, how has it been since you've been here? A lot has gone down. What is up with you, my brother?
Yeah, things have been good. We coming off the holiday, 4th of July. That went well. Got to take the boy out and have him experience fireworks for the first time. I don't know what we were doing the last couple of years, but anyway, he's definitely not afraid, so that's cool to know. But also, clearly, I'm going to have my own fireworks show here because he was super into it. We had a blast. I went down to visit my wife's side of the family. Then we came back up near where I live or where we live. Visited some.
You put them out.
Visited some family friends, and we were out like in the country and eating good, shooting fireworks off. So it was a great time. How about for you?
It was cool, up and down. Lost something personal, but then went to a barbecue, fireworks, chill for the most part. Everything has been good for the most part since our last show, but you guys are not here for all that. You guys are here for another episode of the 8 Morning 92 podcast, where y'all know that y'all are about to get 8 Morning 92 take. That means we're about to keep it 100 on anything that we say. So when you sit up here, just be prepared that we got some topics today that are going to we just can't sugarcoat it no more. So if y'all want to drop us, I get it. Target, if you don't want to sponsor us no more. I get it. Publix, if you don't want us to be the face of your grocery stores. I get it. Fila, if you don't want us rocking your shoes no more. I understand, but we're about to get right into it. And let's go ahead and start it. The boy, Mr. OVO himself, dropped a song before everybody's eyes as he started off his Iceman streaming. It's called What Did I Miss? The song basically was a video before it went to DSPs of him basically just, after everything is settled, him saying, basically going to people, all the people he's helped out, all the friends, whether it be for musically, whether it be professionally, whether it be personally. And then, just basically saying like, time is up. That Drake stimulus package days are fucking over. I wanted to ask you, Banks, with the song out, What Did I Miss? How did you feel about the song? How do you feel about this approach from Drake? Do you feel like this reignites the beef? Do you feel like you're going to get a different side of him? And how do you feel like I know I'm asking a loaded question, so it's all. But how do you feel that the landscape of music has changed since the beef to where it doesn't seem like everybody else is popping anymore?
You did ask a lot of questions, so I'm just going to answer the last one. I feel like everyone has been clamoring for the same type of spotlight that we got to witness last year with Drake and Kendrick, and no one else has really has been able to keep us as tuned in as those two. So from that end, I don't think anything has really been as important as what we witnessed during that time. But to go to how I feel like this sort of quote unquote response is, because it's just him. He's not featured. He's not collaborated with anybody. It's just him on his Iceman tour. I think the Iceman piece is on brand. We'll see what that. Hopefully that turns into something cool, I guess, no pun intended. But the song, for me, keep it in 100. The song is okay. It's from a production standpoint. It's not like the catchiest beat or something that I feel like I'm really gonna play often. But I know we weren't here for that. Like, he wasn't delivering that, and I can respect that. So obviously, listening to the lyrics, he definitely addresses. So my thoughts on What Did I Miss is that it is an okay song. Like, it's not anything that I'm going crazy over. But I don't think that was the point of the song. I think the point of the song was to one of the things that I liked about the song. I'm not a real big fan of the production, the beat, none of that stuff. I don't really care for none of that. But the message in it, what did I miss? To me, it's something that I feel like a lot of us ask when things go wrong in our relationships. And clearly, he went through the biggest, most public version of that last year with everyone that you would assume was aligned with him. Not everyone, of course, but most of the people that we assume to be aligned with him essentially turn their back on him. And he talks about them. He talks about people in general in several of the lines. And I guess my takeaway was he was just like, how did I not understand? Like I collaborated with you all. I cut y'all deals. I housed some of you. We was at the same place. Y'all was riding the wave with me. How did I miss this? Now this does kind of go in contrast of some of his earlier records when he talks about like he's, the one that comes to my mind is No Friends in the Industry. But again, at this point, he's obviously talking about, other people outside of just the music industry. But I think for him, it is a reestablishing of how he's going to move going forward, specifically with this Iceman thing. That's why I'm kind of curious what it all means in the end once he obviously releases an entire body of work. So I am kind of curious and excited on that end. What does Iceman look like? But for the song is okay. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's allowing him to do his subtle call outs that he's so great at. But I think my hope for what this song ends up taking us, how this song ends up driving us forward with Drake is that we finally, I'm gonna say what we all, thinking, but nobody cares about anymore, I guess, is I really hope that we get an all rap album from Drake. I'm just gonna be the first person to say I know a lot of people are like, that's not what he does. It's not his style. This and this, and that's completely fine. I do feel that coming off of what you just went through, I want to hear storytelling. I want to hear bars. I want to hear clever, witty lines. And that's it. And I don't want to hear no one else. This is no features type of thing, just to drive the point home. I don't want nobody on any song that comes out whenever he drops whatever the full project is. But yeah, overall, I think it's an all right song. Obviously, it's doing what it's supposed to do with the call outs. But yeah, I'm ready for what's next. It was a decent teaser.
I feel like the boys, Drake does what Drake does. It's not no do not disturb. It's not like a timestamp record. But I feel like, post battle, I feel like probably the only thing that messes this up is probably the lawsuit that has it. But I also feel like, this is probably different than a lot of people's battles, just because how many people did seem like they flipped sides. I think he posted a picture of him and abs or something like that, and people were trying to talk about photoshopped abs. Who knows? But I will say this: the song is number one on Apple and Spotify. They did drop their top 500 or 0 to 500. He's on the top 4 or 6. One thing I would tell Drake is, after you get this portion of saying F you to everybody, you know what I mean? And you got to squallow up with Kendrick personally. Just knock him the fuck out. I feel like, you should just close this chapter and move on. Don't fall into that trap of what Kendrick did last year. It seemed like, he got a hit with Not Like Us. And it's just like, that's all he can perform now. He can't perform Damn, Be Humble. He can't perform anything. He can't perform swimming pools, anything. He has to perform Not Like Us, because at this point, the Kendrick that we know or people that know of is just off of this battle. He has no rap catalog. It's just kind of like Pusha T. Pusha T his biggest moment is when he sat there and told people about your son. And I will say, as far as impact, as much as people want to sit there and bullshit or talk about, Drake isn't doing this or isn't doing that, it was a beef because we talked about it between Pusha T and Travis Scott that seemed to get overshadowed with all of this going on. So it did do 2.8 million in one day, and then he also uses his rollout for his Iceman album, which it seems like that's going to be the title cover, where he streamed him rolling around in a truck, and he still has the impact that he has. I just think that I don't think the battle shook him up as much as it seemed like people was oohing and ahhing from the other side, the niggas you supposed to stand with. And I think the song really just said, what did I miss? As far as it can be a double entendre. What did I miss since I ain't dropped nothing? What did I miss to see now all these people about to turn cold? And I feel like as much as people want to sit there and claim tone that whatever they want to claim, y'all wouldn't listen to the song. So I can tell you this. I ain't never heard Luther. I ain't never heard a song off of GNX. So only reason I heard They Not Like Us is because every video played They Not Like Us, and that was in the midst of the battle. Other than that, I know I didn't listen to Kill the Party by Kendrick Lamar. So I definitely know that if I don't want to hear a nigga, I'm not going to listen to a nigga. So with that, I just feel that his impact is his impact. I think that that's the part where he needs to realize, and that's the part where the world needs to realize. Maybe it wanted to make your view of him be skewed, but at this point, the boy is the boy. Number one on both charts topping. And as we can see in this climate, I think I've seen Elliott Wilson talk about this. Elliott Wilson, DJ Head, Jeremy Heck have a whole show built on Drake. It's not built on Kendrick. It's not built on Compton. It's not built on anything other than Drake, because most of their Drake clips are the ones that go viral with them talking about it, saying dot era or whatever. His impact is his impact. And you notice that there are no songs sticking out on the pause. There are no songs sticking out on the charts that have done anything in this past year. Not like last year, we had Glorilla, Get It Sexy, the Kendrick, what is it? What is the song for Kendrick and not Kendrick, but Future and Metro?
The song with Future and Metro, the one that started everything?
Yeah, like that.
Like that.
There's no songs like that. Big X Plug hasn't dropped anything major, but there's nothing sticking for this year. Nothing's come out. And this is what I meant about the riff. Even if Drake didn't drop a song, Drake would still jump on a bunch of features. Drake will still be supporting a bunch of songs. You know what I mean? That landscape of music not being celebrated or championed or cheered like it was is because the music industry lost the biggest stimulus package, and that was just content. And now, as you can see, nobody's making anything that's stuck in 2025. So, like I said, I feel like it's cool. I like the Supermax song off of the stream that came through with the What Did I Miss song. So, at least we got two songs that we know for sure about him rapping.
Appreciate the shout out, Drizzy.
Yeah, he doesn't know who the fuck you are, especially that BS. OVO, and that's OVO Hooch over here.
He said he was talking to Taylor
Rooks. Taylor Rooks, yeah. Now, unless you about to tell everybody you got some ass and titties, I would just want to be back because old girl already claimed that he got quiet. Then y'all, I'm thinking about it. So shout out to What Did I Miss? Shout out to the Iceman rollout. Shout out, let's see what he does. And like I said, I still listen to some sexy songs for you. Like, he's the only one who's had an album that's been sustainable to listen to between February and June. And as you can see, even some of the bigger wigs like Joe Budden, a bunch of other podcasts that seem to kind of switch it. Battle rapping never seemed to switch its side. But like I said, when Iceman rollout come out, this will be the 8 more than 92 Drake podcast, because that's all we're going to talk about. But right now, we can go ahead and move on. And I know y'all been wondering, so we're going to go ahead and give our take. The Diddy trial has ended so far. We've seen Sean Combs was put on trial for damn near everything. He was called the Diddler. He was called Freak Nick 2.0. He was called Diddy Oil. He was called
It was calling it not a Rico, but a Freako.
Yeah. So, with the Diddy trial being over, most of the major charges that would have had him behind bars, he was found not guilty on, and the only two he was charged was prostitution for Cassie and another one for the Jane Doe. I can't remember what the other one was for, soliciting prostitution and like buying prostitutes. But it was basically being freaky. So the nigga got charged with being too freaky. We said this a couple weeks ago. We said this multiple times. You know, we live in this time where it seems like social media can decide and dictate what somebody's guiltiness or what somebody's verdict is before it even happens. If you notice, the Breakfast Club gave nonstop coverage of the Diddy trial. But whenever Diddy started to seem like he was going to win or come out on top, pause. You really got to pause that shit. We ever say some wild shit like that about Diddy? But whenever it seemed like he was going to be the victor, the Breakfast Club tones seemed to change. And I'm not going to sit there and say they didn't already have their vacation plan, but it definitely benefited them when they got to say something positive. So I wanted to ask you, what is your input on the whole situation now that the Diddy trial is over?
Yeah, so now that it's over, like you kind of talked about, right? He was found guilty of violating the Mann Act. He was acquitted of trafficking and racketeering. And although he was acquitted of those things, he could still face up to 20 years for the prostitution and so on and so forth. I feel like I'm not surprised by this verdict. It just the entire RICO with no co-conspirators, so on and so forth. Like I even, talked to you before we went on because I was trying to understand the R. Kelly thing, and I clearly never gave the R. Kelly thing a good deep dive, and I was trying to understand, how did R. Kelly meet the qualifications or the predicates for RICO and not in this case? And again, so he did have, in the R. Kelly case, he had what you would consider to be co-conspirators, and then obviously from my deep dive, I realized that they were charged, but then later acquitted. So it was almost as if they acknowledged that R. Kelly had help doing the things that he was doing, but then ultimately decided that they were not a part of the enterprise. And so to me, that doesn't make any sense why he's in jail due to the RICO portion. And that's an aside. I don't want to get distracted from the main point. But essentially, I just didn't see how this was going to... It was a lot of stuff that they were throwing out there, attempting to try to have it stick. And ultimately, I mean, none of it did. Even Diddy's team felt confident enough. They weren't going to call him. Yeah, I don't think Diddy's team really thought too much past these outrageous charges as well. They didn't call anybody out up to the stand. Diddy didn't, of course, go up there to speak on his own behalf. They felt like the team felt as if they were able to do everything they needed to do. And so here we are at the end with this verdict. It was just a lot that they were trying to throw against the wall and have it stick against him. And I just never felt like anybody was really concrete enough. They did. I mean, and it's all in the rundown afterwards. It's almost like you don't want to say this. This is my keeping it 100 moment. You don't want to say like I'm glad, or you don't want to use any of those terms because that could potentially be problematic. So that's not what I feel. I think for the things that he's done, he definitely should be punished. But what I don't like, and the part that I am glad about, is that they didn't attempt to set a legal precedence with him to where they could just do whatever they wanted to do, and then that was it, right? Like they can't just say, "Oh, we're going to charge a RICO," and then let that be the case. I'm not a big fan of things just not making legal sense and that. But overall, yeah, I'm just not a big fan of of how that was going, the direction that it was going, where we were going to try to throw everything against the wall on Diddy, and then it also brings into conversation the raids and all of those things. To me, it seemed like an attempt at, obviously, like at a money grab, and then it was like this smear campaign on top of it. If they had gone through and successfully got, the RICO, the trafficking, all that stuff. I mean, his whole situation, all of his publishing, all that stuff was just gone. That would obviously be absorbed, and it wouldn't be in his ownership anymore. And so I like the fact that those things are going to be kept within, his estate, his kids, so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, we still don't know what he's actually facing, so that's still up in the air. But in the sense that he this felt like an attempt to overpunish. And again, I am not a Diddy. I'm not a Diddy fan. Diddy stan. I've never really cared for Diddy. I want to be very clear about that. I want to say he did a lot of extra flexing that I felt like was really unnecessary during his run. And I mean, I guess, as powerful as he ended up being, some people might think it was fitting, but I felt like he was just doing a lot of flex and I mean, we saw all the footages from Making the Man, from all these things. I mean, he was not anybody's, in my opinion, anybody's hero. He wasn't like some cool, calm, and collected dude. So I don't want this, but I think also at the same time, he deserves to go through the legal system in the right way, the justice system in the right way. And they basically, got him for, like you said, being too freaky. But that's my take on it.
My take of it is, like I said, let the justice system be the justice system. Let due diligence do its due diligence. And I said this early on. I just was just like, the amount of people that turned on him was just kind of like, what was he about to do? Um, is he probably a shitty person? Probably. Is he probably a demon in a relationship? Probably. I don't know Diddy like that, so I'm not gonna speak on him. I did like to see. I did like that people's tune has started to change towards Cassie. And what I mean by that is, as the stuff showed, which he kept Blackberries for, I said this before. You've never seen a show with a kingpin or a queen pin or anything like that, and they are the woman is just hands free out of it. So for her to be with somebody that's a mogul like him, she was going to see the skeletons in the closet, and she got to partake on it. She even partake and what's the word I'm looking for? Headed up some of the freak offs. So she had a Cassie couch. So for everything that's come down between her, I feel like if I was some of the victims that was trying to rat on Diddy, now that Cassie done exposed herself and told what happened, I would go in there and sue or try to get Cassie in jail, open and shut. And the only reason I say that is because, you was cool taking money from him before all this to get him not to tell. And now all of a sudden that you sat there and everybody found out your business and everybody knows that you're not innocent. Now all of a sudden, you are just as guilty of some of the crazy stuff that you was accusing him of. Like, I am a man of this. When all this stuff goes down, this is how I feel about a lot of this. I can understand like being a victim and feeling like you're forced in a relationship, even doing some things with some of them people, like the peeing and like the nipple licking and all that type of shit. I can understand if you were doing that and you just felt trapped and kind of like in a world to where you can't do anything else. But once you started, I think as we seen with her setting up some of the things that she is to be held just as liable as Diddy is. If I'm being honest with you, I don't think that's a topic that people really want to sit there and say, "Oh, she's a victim. Oh, she's that." Those are two different. Those are two separate things. And I said this before. It's one thing for you to get wrapped up in that power, But it's another thing when you had your opportunities to leave and you stayed or you started to do your own stuff. And that's like I said, me and you have talked about this off camera. Um, I can't feel sorry for you if you had your opportunities to leave and you decided to stay and do something knowing that the road it could lead down to could be detrimental for you and your life and your future. So that's like me sitting up there saying to you, like, yeah, if you ever ask anybody in jail, they'll give you a sob story. I had a family, I had to do all this, but what are they still doing? They're still serving time. So my question to you is, what is your outlook on Cassie on after all this? And do you feel like she should face any type of charges since all this stuff has come out about her?
How do I feel about Cassie afterwards? I mean, I feel the same as I feel about Diddy, man. You was a freaky girl, man. I don't know about all of this coercion and so on and so forth. I feel like we start to talk about murky things when we start to get into the psyche of what might have been going on because we weren't there, we didn't partake, so on and so forth. I don't think, as someone who was called to the stand, I don't think anybody should be trying to levy any charges against her or, any sort of, litigious action shouldn't come against her. Again, she was somebody who was called to give a testimony, to tell her, truth. And although it did.
She could have pleaded the fifth. She could have pleaded the fifth. And we're not talking about the FBI or the court system trying to seek charges. We're talking about the niggas that was up there testifying against Diddy that could testify and say that she was doing her own thing. So they sit out there and put out a civil case or whatever case on her because she sat there and said that she did it. So there's nothing stopping them from filing a case on her. The people that are putting the case on him, the FBI and all of them, they just can't charge Cassie.
Yeah. I mean, man, you would be opening up such a big can of worms if you were just another witness or whoever they called up to the stand to attempt to do something like that to Cassie. I feel like you are opening yourself up to a lot of, you open yourself up to a lot of scrutiny, people digging into your past, finding other things that might not even be connected, but are possibly seen as outrageous or more outrageous than the things Puff was doing. I just don't know if everybody wants their dirty laundry aired like that. So I don't think it would be smart.
Well, the niggas that are gonna be airing it are the people that was testifying against Diddy that she was a part of. So it ain't like we don't already know what they was doing. These ain't just like off the street freaks. I'm talking about these is niggas that was already on trial talking about Diddy. What if the nigga that was saying he was hired for Cassie, what if he did it separately? We already know what he was doing. Like I said, I feel like Cassie's ass should be brought up on charges, and she decided to sit there and do it. She's not safe. And what else is not safe is male fathers out here as it goes through the court system. I don't know if people have really tried to go get custody of their kids, but when you are the male, it seems like it's almost impossible to always get custody against your mother unless you are like on some, what is his name, Christian Woods from the Lakers, where their mom was just crazy, or she was just trying to use him as a pawn because he was in the NBA, or the mama got to be on drugs or whatever. It's just very hard. I got custody of my oldest son. I got custody of both my kids, so like it's very rare for a male to win those type of cases. And so my question to you, Banks, is when you have these kids that are put into a system, we see it a lot of times, especially celebrities, where they're just certain situations come up and then you don't know the activity role in a father and a kid's life that's in for that family. But you are in these situations where the judge, which is why they always say don't let the judge, I guess, court system decide your fate. But the court systems are doing these ridiculous things that take place to where a lot of times the ruling is on the woman. Um, Now, in case of some of the cases we've seen, we could use DDG and Hallie as an example, because she put out this restraining order on him, which I guess she fears for the child. He hasn't seen his kid in over a month, and he can only see the child for 3 days from like 10 to 6 p.m., almost like 12 hours. But they got to be supervised. They got to do all this. And I'm looking at the courts like, what are you supervising between the child and the father? Like, what is all this that comes through it? So when you have these strained relationships, or where you had this time to where the father doesn't have it, should the courts face penalties for any type of upbringing? For if that kid was to grow up and he had a hard life, or he was to go down some troubled road, if he was due for anything, if you were, let's just say Luke, because I hear him, goes to jail, and you and his mama had problems, and the court system didn't put Luke in a situation where Luke had an equal amount of time around his father and his mother to be raised. He only went off what the mother was said, everything like that. Didn't really take a real situational look and what was going on. And then Luke gets in trouble. When Luke gets in trouble, that judge over there, should they take any type of blame in how that kid turned out by the judge deciding the fates of the family so far in?
I mean, yeah, ideally, I would like to say that there should be blame tossed
Okay,
or
sure. Keep it 100, my nigga.
aimed at the judge. Um, just their decision making, obviously, in the judgment needs to be called into question. A lot of things need to be up for conversation or revisit, especially if, like we're saying, our sons end up in a worse off situation. But again, we talking ideally and not what might be something that's going to practically happen. I think we both know that if something happened to our boys, it would be the fact that it would always go back to ground zero of we didn't choose the right maid, or we didn't make these certain choices and decisions along the way. So I don't think anybody would ever own the fact that, like, you were brought in because ultimately we couldn't come to an agreement with each other amicably. So we needed to bring in, a mediator, a legal mediator. And so, I think at that point, whatever they decide is, I mean, it's just not in our hands anymore. I think is what the point I'm trying to make is if me and my wife are unable to make decisions, or you and a girl that you have a baby with, baby mama, baby daddy, if y'all are unable to make decisions between each other, that's the risk you take when you involve the court system. So unfortunately, I feel that whatever happens is just kind of where the cards lay. So if he ends up in worse shape, I guess ultimately we should have worked our stuff out together privately to figure out what to get to the crux of some of our personal issues with each other, so that we might have maybe put him on a better path. But unfortunately, we weren't, and so now he's the collateral damage of our poor decision making, because clearly we have to go talk to somebody now because we can't get on the same page. So, I mean, yeah, ultimately, I would like to say that, I would love to place the blame on somebody else. But I think if we keep it a bug, you definitely need to revisit your relationships with these people that you reproduce with, and understand that it's not just those fun 15 minutes or whatever it is and making them. And even during the time that they are being carried and then birthed, like this is something that you deal with each other for all intents and purposes forever. The good and the bad all come to light when we're talking about attempting to raise another human together, with the intent on both of us, providing a certain type of nurturing background, or what's the word I'm looking for? More stern, or like structured background. I mean, all those things come into play when we're talking about upbringing. And so ultimately, if you get with somebody who just is not compatible, or you miss the signs, unfortunately, it's really up for y'all to kind of eat that crow, and that's nobody else's fault. If we're keeping it a buck, you feel differently.
Before I go to my segment, so it only took you 15 minutes.
I was being generous. It was probably less time than that.
Oh, okay. You should suffer all the consequences that you can get for wasting those people's time, wasting everybody's time. Um, that quick little commercial that you gave somebody. You should take this time where I put myself on the screen to think about some of the things that you've done, sir. You shouldn't be getting angry at anybody for 5 to 10 minutes. All right, you shouldn't even raise your voice at the table. But this is a serious topic. I feel that me and my expeditiously fornicator or friend over here feel that, at least I do. I feel like if the judges were to face consequences, I bet you the judges will take a more serious look into what they're doing and how to decide stuff. And I feel like even if you were to go to jail for something later in life, I feel like that judge should be in charge of making sure that you are reinstitutionalized. Make sure you coming back as a good citizen. If not, make him lose his bar. I feel like if the presidency has shown us anything, it should have showed us that we need to take serious jobs back to being serious. The most important job in the world, in this country, should not be met upon with scrutiny jokes. There shouldn't be people off of ESPN First Take feeling like they can take over the free world. And also, we should have people in there that, we're about to go through a chat GPT phase where, everybody's going to be having a degree off chat GPT. We're going to a time where, and I'm not trying to say where it makes it sound crazy, it's conspiracy theories, we're going through a time where artificial intelligence is going to take over. So we need to get to a point where people start taking more passion into their jobs, because you're not going to be talking about the Mexicans or the whoever took my job. You're going to be talking about the computers took my jobs pretty soon. So with that being said, I feel like there should be a more emphasis on people who take these jobs to be more serious when you're in part of that job. I know that when you're driving a bus, that you just can't be bullshitting while you're driving the bus, so you're going to kill everybody on that motherfucker. So you need to have that same seriousness as a bus driver, as a custodian, as anybody, as when you're in these seats, when you're in these positions that can decide someone's life. There are a lot of broken homes. There are a lot of times where we can see in this day and age that it is probably more common now to just find somebody that you think that you can raise a kid with in a respectable way than probably picking and choosing for your wives or stuff like that, because marriages don't last the way they do. So with that being said, there's a 90% chance that marriage or that relationship is not going to last. So with y'all having kids, a court is going to get involved with it. And I think that courts need to do their due diligence on what makes a happy home. And if you're a court judge that goes in there and does unrealistic things, like when Jimmy Butler had to go to court because his baby mama wanted $60,000 a month instead of $55,000 a month. What are you doing with $55,000 a month that you can't raise a child? Even if you were telling somebody it should be the lifestyle that they're accustomed to, $55,000 a month. Let's just say, hey Siri, how much is $55,000? How much money would you have at the end of the year if you got $55,000 a month? That is $666,000 in a year just from child support. So with that being said, as that judge, you got to be realistic, and you need to be on the front street of what are you granting these people for? You're saying, I've already said this plenty of times, I feel like if there was a penalty both ways for people having kids, and I mean by the women having kids, there would be a lot of thought on, nigga, I'm not just about to have no kid with you because I ain't about to face no penalty because I got a shitty baby daddy. And I feel like that should be with the judge. As we're looking at this right now, we said the DDG shit. You should look at some of the things that are being said and notice that out of all this, if the person wants to see the child, why are you putting so many restraints on the child if the child hasn't seen their father in a month? So I just sit there and say we need to get back into this point of where we're putting more seriousness, we're putting a more serious attention into the jobs that we're picking and pushing out there to people. And we also need to put people that are serious about these jobs back in the face of it. It can get tiring, it can get overwhelming, yes, it can get all that, but we need to have qualified people in those positions. That's how I feel about that. I feel like there needs to be accountability always, and that judge needs to take just about as much accountability as the people that are going to be seen before him, because he's ultimately a deciding factor in that child's life or in that person's life whenever they see him. Whenever you enter a judge, you are now a deciding factor in whose ever life that you're being introduced to. And that's all I feel. That's all I have on that.
So now tell me why the fact that we had to bring a judge in, does that not say something?
Well, if you're not married and you have a kid, you got to bring a judge in to, like, you got to have custody and stuff like that in general. It's smarter.
Because you hear you hear other black people talk about, I ain't never been to the court. I do right by my kids or kid. Like we don't go through the court system.
Yeah, but I mean, if you sit there and go from there, you cannot go through the court system. And how often are you seeing that kid? You just paying child support. See him whenever you see him. A court-ordered parenting plan makes everybody accountable for what you're supposed to do. I have my son during this day. She has my son or daughter during this day. And then it goes from there. Yes, you need to get the judge involved when there's no sensible thing. That's why I said, not every time that people are doing stuff with a kid, it's the kid's best interest at heart. It's personal gain for either person. So yes, there should be a judge in place, because to a certain extent, if you aren't able to work out your situation by themselves, but even then, you should still want a legal document stating what you can do, not having hearsay from the person's mouth, because you don't know how long or how good that would be. They can get with another family and they decide to nix that verbal agreement child. So putting it on paper will always help.
Okay, that makes sense.
Come on, talking to a real legal.
Talking to a legal expert.
Exactly, bro. That's all I'm gonna say. So I did want to ask you. I was just seeing a lot of stuff, Kobe stuff coming up a lot recently, and I just wanted to ask your input on it. Do you feel like Kobe is getting Nipsey treatment? And the reason why I say that is because when Nipsey died, Nipsey was great. We love Nipsey, but when Nipsey died, it was just kind of like every time somebody brought up Nipsey's name, it was kind of prolific. It was something on just like a Messiah-like scale, a Hefe-like scale. Nipsey was doing this for the hood. Nipsey was doing that for the hood. Nipsey was doing this. And, he was doing all that while he was alive, but there wasn't that much of an urgency to go see what Nipsey was talking about until he died. With Kobe being gone, I don't remember as much Kobe love until kind of like after he retired, maybe somewhat. But I do remember that a lot of people did not like playing with Kobe. I do remember he couldn't keep a teammate. I do remember a lot of narratives being there. So I feel like, now it's kind of like when you had a GOAT debate between him and Bron, it's just, man, you're leaving out Kobe. Between Bron and Jordan. And now it's kind of like, see no evil, speak no evil on Kobe. And so how do you feel like the world views? Do you feel like it's a fair assessment? Or do you feel like what I said is true? Or do you think you have a different opinion?
I think I'm on the right track with you. I think we both agree Kobe was great, but I don't think we need to pretend like he didn't have controversy. Having respect for Kobe is not synonymous with revisionist history that a lot of people are currently kind of caught in. And to talk about both Kobe and Nipsey, right? Like after death, both of them, we could both say like we're sort of elevated to like this near mythic level of being, of entity, right? Like, ooh, you know, when you hear Kobe, it's almost like he gets like that glow, or Nipsey, so on and so forth. It's like their flaws and all their struggles and things kind of get pushed to the side, which I think is a natural thing to do. I think people do it, and it's not the worst thing in the world because obviously we miss that person and we want to remember the best parts of them being there, or how they made us feel while they were here. But it can definitely be dangerous if we erase the full picture. Um, and so I think that we can honor someone's legacy without also pretending that they were perfect. Um, I think for me anyway, real respect means acknowledging everything, the good, the bad, and the growth that happens, you know, between both of them. So I don't think this whole narrative of like leaving stuff out, like I don't like that. I don't like when we only tell half truths. When we go back and look at history, I think, you know, especially if we're keeping it in line with our show, keeping it 100 means loving someone enough to tell their full story. And so while a lot of us here, you know, again, miss Kobe and were greatly affected by his passing, I think we also, when we retell him in certain ways, I mean, let's just be honest, like you said, right? Like couldn't keep a teammate, was called selfish, so on and so forth. But now that he has died and transitioned, it's like everybody has bought in on the mama mentality. Everybody a dog, or everybody, you know what I'm saying? Like there's just like all this new language. And at the time, I felt like a lot of people were almost questioning this type of energy from Kobe. I I like to remember certain late night shows. I think he was on Jimmy Kimmel. I think they had like him and either him and the rest of the Lakers, or it was something, and they were all on there giggling and doing all this other stuff. And he was basically like the dad of the group. Like nothing was funny. There was no life because they were losing too at the same time. Like they were a losing team, and that just wasn't up to his standards. And I think a lot of people, probably some of his teammates at the time, was like, God, this guy's so serious, so on and so forth. We're trying to get to this money. So I mean, but now obviously that he passed, you know, I think a lot of people are going back and revisiting how all those things look. But in real time, a lot of people did not like how he was moving. It's almost like the Martin Luther King thing. Everybody wants to talk about Martin Luther King in this grandiose way that, and rightfully so, like he was definitely a trailblazer, so on and so forth. But the people of the time hated King. They wanted nothing to do with King. Even some of his black counterparts didn't like the things that he was doing and saying and how he was moving. But you know, when January comes around, we all, or not we all, but everybody says the same quotes, and we talk about how awesome he was, so on and so forth. So I mean, it's kind of
let me help you spice shit up. So with that being said, are we overrating Kobe right now? That's what I need to ask you. I need you to come off the PC term. Are we overrating Kobe versus where you had him before he died versus where he's not? Is he overrated?
No, I don't think so. I don't think people are overrating Kobe. I felt like even when he was alive, and even in the early part of his retirement, I felt like the conversation was always Kobe, Jordan, LeBron, and like the disrespect. I remember vividly certain people talking about like don't disrespect Kobe and put LeBron in and so on and so forth. I so I don't think his death sparked up any like unfounded faith in what Kobe was doing. I think his death sparked up this sort of like God-like figure that he was, and that, you know, everybody got a Kobe story. Everybody, you know, he was just so far, you know, he was just so locked in and so on and so forth. And nobody pushed back and thought that was weird. Like, no, people clearly were not in agreement with how he was doing certain things. I mean, funny enough, you hear Dwight Howard talk about one of the instances when they were there. Oh no, man, I'm mixing up a story. He was talking about LeBron having the power that he has. we can cut that out. But in my point, I don't think so. I don't think people are just today's not the best day. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and close us out on that one.
Shout out to my man Luke the Builder. My nigga out there just driving my nigga Taylor crazy right now. Out here, that's why he agreed with the judges. You know what I'm saying? He want to say FGK. You know what I mean? Because he ready to put himself on the schedule where he off this week. But if y'all can see him right now, he doing the Brian. I sure don't talk like that. So I mean, it's a good question. I feel like it's something we need to ask. I feel like we need to have that discussion with everybody. Is Kobe now overrated from the stance of where he was when he died? It's nothing wrong with being admirable about it, but like I said, I think nobody wanted to go to LA and play for the Lakers when they were there. Like you said, he was no fun like LeBron when he was on all them teams, and when he wasn't winning, he was miserable. He had a Tom Brady like demeanor, which is just championship or bust. So like now that he's gone, it was almost like niggas say this about Kobe. I remember Bean came in there one day and said, "Y'all niggas suck. Fuck am I stuck here for?" That told me that I needed to grind harder and get myself out of that shoe. You know what I'm saying? Bean had a way of motivating you and telling you when your job needed to be better.
Right. And that wasn't how you looked at it at the time. I can almost guarantee you was pissed.
Yeah.
That he came in there and wrecked shop and told y'all what it was like that. You didn't have this sort of insightful outlook on Kobe coming in and telling you that all y'all trash and that y'all need to be traded and that like you gonna bust your like no you
trade all these bitch ass niggas. And I knew right then and there that I wasn't the All-American that they brought here. That's what type of man Kobe was to me. Man, that's why his wife left him. He let me know that I wasn't being the king of my kingdom by telling me how she was stepping off with other niggas. Bean was just that type of motivator. You know what I'm saying? Bean got his foot in your ass so you wouldn't be on grass. Go ahead, Banks.
No, that was that you are accenting that excellent. Like I don't have nothing else. That was
the white before the breakup. Fuck Kobe. Fuck nigga. I don't eat jelly beans, green beans, beans,
pork and beans,
Jack and the Beanstalk, bitch. Fuck Kobe. All right. Now all of a sudden, I really just wish that other than getting caught with that nigga, that I just didn't get caught being so sensitive when Kobe was spitting at me and slapping me in the back of my head. You know what I'm saying? He was trying to jumpstart my longevity, and I didn't know how to take it. So I just
right. That's so back to your initial question. I don't think anybody debated that he was the best and that those conversations have changed. I think everybody been lying about how they've been responding to his charges. Everybody's lying about that. I don't think nobody looked at it and was like, you know what, Kobe, you right. I am a bitch ass. Like, no.
Yeah. Like let's keep it a beat. Your grandma, your auntie or somebody died. Yeah, she used to love me. She used to slap me in the back of my head. She used to get our ass and make sure we did it. But grandma I miss grandma. But when grandma was alive and tell you to get your ass in the bed and slap the shit out you, you used to go up there and say, I wish you would die already. So don't sit there. And glorify granny now that she gone and say, God got a good one. You know what I'm saying? You might have to sit down with your grandma the way that you was acting about it. The way you sit there and said, she making us eat this liver and onions for the 5th time. And you sit there and say all the time, your grandma had a way of stealing, don't finish what you don't start. You know what I'm saying? Fuck out of here, nigga. You used to call your grandma a saggy bitch every time you got a chance to your auntie. Oh my God. Don't let it be your damn daddy that wasn't shit. Then let that nigga die. Pops just was going out so I could be better. You know what I'm saying? I'm a family man because of my father. But that wasn't here, that raggedy motherfucker. So I'm just saying, let's just say, what we were thinking. We can wrap it right there. I don't want to, say any more than necessary. Banks, you got anything to tell the people before they go? Oh, actually, I help y'all this. Mother. come get your fucking kids, all right? Because right now, this nigga Luke is whooping his ass, all right? Look at him. He ain't took that button off. He been sitting up there tight ass this whole time. You know what, Luke? You doing you, brother. You too. You know what I'm saying? You just a baby. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, you didn't get your patch update, but we know that you running those. We run the last update. But all I will say is this: as a nigga whose son has been here, I've been by myself every day. I have no sympathy for you, okay? Jarvis, come here. As somebody that just sits there, knows this be the time. These are the times we all wish for. More precious for me and so much. Yeah, you thought I wasn't getting up this episode singing, huh? This has been another. Come here, handsome. This has been another episode of 8 More Than 92 podcast, where we always keep it 100. Look at the camera. Say bye bye.
Come here. Come here.
Huh? Hey.
Hey.
Hey, y'all. Say I'm Jarvis.
Say hey, audience. I'm Luke.
All we're gonna sit there and say is it'll be all right. All right. Cassie, your time is coming up next. Kobe, we love you, my nigga. But like Mitch keeps saying, every time he said he wish he could have took the bullet for Nipsey, you just gotta remember what you was doing when the nigga was alive. This has been another episode of 8. Okay, no gang signs. BL over here. This has been another episode of 8192 podcast where we always keep 100. Peace. Do peace, Jarvis.
Yo. Welcome back to another episode of the 8 More Than 92 podcast where we always keep it 100. You heard none of them sound effects, did you?
Nah. Hey. Told y'all niggas I was gonna keep the street. Hey.
Oh, then how you coming, Glock?
Pause.
Okay.
It's the 8 More Than 92 podcast. You know how we do. We always keep it 100.
Yeah.